And taking on the theme that we were discussing just before, the monetization of football is something that hasn't just sort of changed. It's changed seismically over the decades, still transforming and evolving as we speak. And clubs are using their platforms in increasingly smart ways to find new revenue streams. Just look at the Twitch adoption migration and how that is really evolving right now. And that's just one area. Then there's those three letters that have caused a real stir. And if you don't know what they are, get on this quick. NFT, to give them their full scientific title, non-fungible tokens. If you've been keeping a close eye on what Gerard Piqué has been doing recently, then maybe you might have a little bit more info on the subject. NFT is a unit of data stored on a digital ledger called a blockchain, which can be sold and traded on digital markets. It's an absolute game changer. And if you don't think it's a big deal, just have a look at what Socios are doing right now. More from them very shortly, and a number of different, let's say, not just stakeholders, but points of view on all of what's involved in digitally monetization in sports and the innovation of that area. It's such a hot topic right now, and it's great that we're really focusing on it this morning. Lots to get into here. We'll do it in the company of the following. Our moderator for this last session before lunch, partner at Accelerated Equity, or AE, Michael Broughton. And your speakers from the WFS Advisory Board, Luis Vicente. Sports Southern Europe lead at Facebook, Kike Levy. CEO and founder at Socios, Alex Dreyfus. Founding partner at Apex Capital, Antonio Felix da Costa. And CEO at Real Fever, Fred Antunes. Please give them a warm welcome on stage.
Thank you, David, for that. I think he's now explained the blockchain to everybody, so we can all go home. It was nice and simple. Delighted to have such an esteemed crowd here listening and speaking. Luis, I'm going to open up with you with kind of an overview of, most of the rights holders, IP owners that we've seen in sport have focused heavily and rightly on content, digital, data, but quite a few have struggled necessarily to monetize it. Do we think that with the emergence of the blockchain increasingly into the mainstream and NFTs, that we might be at a tipping point in how we monetize digital assets?
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. And thank you for being here today. And it's always nice that you start by the youngest guy in the panel, so it's good. Very happy. But I think it's definitely a thematic that will be the central chapter not just in the football industry, but I think overall in the sports industry for the next years to come. I think we're only in the very early beginning, because I think we've been for so many years trying to find digital monetization at scale, in sports. And many organizations have spent quite, a massive amount of resources trying to build their own way, trying to build, an aggregated way. I think there is some more success stories than insuccess stories, but still nobody has found the model at scale. And I think today, with the advent of blockchain, not just on NFTs, but because there is many other opportunities within the exploitation of the technology, there is probably the route that will make once and for all digital monetization being at the center and maybe at the priority list of revenue for any sports organization.
Now, I think when we talk about digital monetization, Kike, Facebook have been pretty good at this in the last few years, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say that we're getting better.
And of course, have announced their own digital currency. The Novi wallet is coming. We don't yet know what that's all going to entail, but as you're seeing NFTs explode in the space, how do you see Facebook helping the likes of Socios and Real Fever and Sorare and the like to build their customer base and to grow as a business?
I think there's no secret that we as a company are looking blockchain very closely, and we have many plans. And when you're in a company like Facebook, that you always need to look at what's coming and innovate, because otherwise you're dead. And the competition is incredible, and you always need to be at the forefront of every new technology that comes up. And in the NFT world, I think that at the end, it's not a product that is suitable for everyone. If we think about what Socios is doing, it's a product that definitely it has a really good market fit, but not all football fans are prepared to that level of engagement and ready to pay for that deep engagement that they're working on. So I think, in general, Facebook, Instagram, we are at the front line. We are the first step of that user engagement. And at the end, the companies like Socios or any football club that want to put their NFTs out will need Facebook and Instagram to drive traffic to this platform.
I mean, he just touched on you, obviously, and driving traffic to you, and also the fact that we are in a classic textbook version of early adopter stage of a technology. I mean, it's been a crazy 18 months for everybody. It's been a pretty fast growth 18 months for Socios. I mean, talk to us about some of your experiences for fans, rights holders, your relationships with the likes of Facebook. How has that had to change? What are you learning as you go?
How many hours do you have? So, I mean, Socios.com, we've been very lucky for the last 2 years, more or less, because we were at the right place at the right time. COVID was actually an accelerator for us in a way that it forces club to finally accept that there are fans outside of their stadium and outside of the community. And we believe that what we do is both very simple and very complicated. Simple because we try to help clubs and sports property to engage and, yes, monetize their fans. And I will go a little bit further saying that we want fans to become customers. Sometimes it's a very bad word in the sports industry, but yet it should be said. And our journey is about trying to give more power, more voice to the fans. And we translated this vision by creating this digital asset that are actually not NFTs. It's a bit frustrating, this NFT hype, because then everything is associated with that. We are not doing NFTs, we are doing something called fan tokens. And it worked very well. We went from 2 years ago, we had more or less 5 clubs, including Atletico Madrid, which was our first Spanish club. Now we have 60 or 70 clubs all over the world. We have NBA teams, UFC, Formula Ones. So we try to aggregate every sports property we can. Because also in 2021, fans are not anymore fans of one team, one sports. And therefore, like Facebook, there is a massive network effect in what we do. And it is in the interest for the fans and for the clubs to work with platforms like us.
And just jumping on that, I mean, I think we've seen on Facebook that you can be a fan of both, bizarrely, Manchester City and Manchester United at the same time. Are you seeing that same kind of crossover of if somebody's in on the PSG, they're also in on Atletico Madrid, or?
Yes, so actually 52% of our users are buying more than 2 teams, 38 more than 3 teams, if I remember. But you will never have an Atletico Madrid fan buying a Real, we don't have Real, but Real and Barca, let's say. You will have more the fact that a PSG fan will buy a Juventus and a Barca because it's different leagues. That's more how it's translated for us.
Okay, so there's still a sense of fandom there. This is good to see.
Of course.
Fred, I'm going to jump to you because the World Cup is fast approaching. I know my son is going to say to me, I'd like the Panini sticker book. Classic old school, and I'm using paper and pen here to make my notes, so old school still works. But I think the business model is different, right? I mean, explain to us with Real Fever how the IP and rights holders should think about what the business model is, because it's not just day one and then we're done and we move on. Actually, because it's on the blockchain, there is a never-ending connection.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation and good afternoon, everybody. What we did in Real Fever and what we are doing was something absolutely simple. We just picked up the idea of the packs that Panini was selling. Not only Panini, but Magic the Gathering, Pokemons, and all of them have been using in the last 60 to 70 years. And when you open a pack, just in a digital version, instead of just a simple sticker that you can have a picture of something, you just open it and you get a video. And based in that videos, there is hours, millions of hours of content from the last 30 years in sports industry that we were doing nothing with them. So what we did was we secured intellectual property for the last 22 years in Portugal. And it's very nice because Portugal is one of the countries where a huge world-class top players have played there. And when you open a pack, you open one of fantastic goal from one of your favorite sports player or football player. And in the case of Real Fever, We have Cristiano, we have Bruno Fernandes, we have a lot of players who play there, and now it's all about the scaling up. So after you build up the technology, you just have to build up more verticals using that technology. So Facebook is dramatically important to bring the access and the traffic, from all over the planet to our ecosystem, but not only to our ecosystem, to everything that we are building up, because as Luis said, and I 100% agree, we are all very, very early adopters at this stage.
And when my son is trading cards in the school playground, FIFA won't see any value from that. But as I understand it, if I'm trading a real FIFA token, right?
Yeah, I
that
think
there is a perpetual income that can be made along the line for others as well.
the biggest thing that blockchain technology brought to the space was the activation of the secondary market. So among the whole last 20 years, eBay and all other marketplaces were trading used items, used goods from one to the other. What blockchain activated was you can trade the same digital asset multiple times a day, and you can send that content to Vietnam, to Thailand, to Australia, to Brazil, to Argentina in a matter of seconds. So instead of a physical sticker that you have to send by the post, and it takes time, the trading today is quite faster. And that is exactly what we are activating. So I can send it some to you right now, and in 10 seconds you send to Luis, in 10 seconds you send to Kike, and we trade multiple of them, just in a matter of a wallet that you have in your mobile phone.
Yeah. Antonio, like I think many people in the world, not just here, NFTs are relatively new to you, but you've recently invested in a business that is outside of sport, but in this space. What got you excited about getting into NFTs in tokens, blockchain?
Well, first of all, hello everyone. Great to be here. Well, it all started also during COVID, to be honest, where I'm still an active athlete. I'm still racing. I'm still my number one priority is still to win races. But as you get older, you start to try and plan your afterlife, after your career. So we did start Apex and try to go there. And when we started looking into NFTs and the blockchain, all the blockchain, how it works, and all the NFT communities, is for us something to where can we grow as athletes? Where can we grow as, and not only on results. That's what I do on the track, but outside of the track, protect our investments, protect our images, and as Fred said, is the safest way right now to monetize yourself. So it's something we looked into. I'm learning every day. We had dinner last night. We had chatted for hours this morning again, and I'm still learning every day so much about NFTs and the blockchain community. But for us, it's definitely something where the sport, not only the sport, everything in the world will go into, but sport will develop itself so much into that. So we wanted to get in early. We invested in a company called Exclusible, where a lot of good people working, and great vision, great ambition. And for us, it's definitely one of the platforms to be involved in right now.
And I think it's very nice that in the last 48 hours, obviously ahead of this panel, as an investor, we've seen in the last 48 hours 2 announcements: Ferrari raising several hundred million at a $4.5 billion valuation. I think Dapper Labs announced last night 250 million at a 7.6 billion valuation. There's clearly somebody who thinks that this market is growing rapidly and they want to get in. I mean, as guys operating right at the edge of it, what are you seeing from the kind of investor world?
Should we announce our round now?
Why not?
No, I think what we learn from this is that whoever thinks it's a hype or a fad is going to be very disappointed, because this is here to stay. It's happening. You may not understanding it, but it's happening. And at some point, the question is, when do you embrace it? What I've learned in sport for the last 3 years and a half is nobody wants to be first, but nobody wants to be last. So the question is, when do you balance when you jump in the train? And in our case, and it's true in NFTs and everything else, is there are clubs that are a little bit more, that take a little bit more like a leap of faith. That was the case with us with Paris Saint-Germain and Juventus. We owe them that. They were the first to get in, but they're also the first one to get rewarded. They generated thousands of millions of dollars of revenue for them during COVID. That's valuable. I think the fact that there is significant amount of money, a little bit too much to be honest, that is available as a capital for companies right now, means that them, we, and other companies are here to stay. So fans are here, users are here. It's happening. It's not anymore a PowerPoint. It's real.
All right. Fred, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, if I can add something is, I think in the beginning of Web 1, static websites were really a mandatory thing. Web 2 brought the content producer, and every single fund can produce their content and live stream what they say, what they think, what their opinion. But I think for the next 10 years, the game changer is the fan, he knows a lot of football. He pays the premium content, he watches the games, he goes to the stadium, and he do all of that. But the moment is, what kind of return on investment the user will get for himself. And in fact, what we are activating with blockchain technology and with fund tokens or NFTs is to empower the user to monetize his knowledge and his expertise in the exchange of the studying and the knowledge that he has when he's engaged with a competition, with a team, or with a specific football player.
I mean, I think I'd like to engage with all of you around the kind of concept of fan engagement in that sense. It's a language I personally am not a fan of, excuse the pun, but I think particularly in England, the fan now believes very clearly we are owners. They've expressed this quite loudly this year. But I think, Kike, if I jump to you, I mean, Facebook has demonstrated the appetite for fans to connect with their clubs, to connect with their passions, is seemingly never-ending. Right? I mean,
absolutely. I think, and there's going back to the point that now, as Alexander was saying, there's a lot of money out there and investment interest on this world. I think that the main reason for that is because think about and Mark Zuckerberg talked a lot about this. Think about the next computing platform. Fred was mentioning static website, and now it's not anymore. We are on mobile, and what's going to be the next computing platform? Everyone's talking also about the metaverse and how this is going to play. It's hard to say, but definitely there's going to be a space for these digital assets in this new world. There's something that I think COVID has teach us, and it's that you're never going to substitute the in-person engagement of people. That's impossible. But technology can keep us connected in a way that it was not possible before, and it kind of gives us the sense of being there with someone, even if we're not physically there. And I think with the metaverse and with all these new technologies that are coming up, this sense of presence is going to be much more deep and important. And fan engagement has been there since football exists. Like the only thing that it has evolved as the technology has evolved as well. If you think about fan engagement 100 years ago, it was all about going to the stadium or playing football in person. As we get new technologies, the ways of how fans were engaging has changed, and the new technology also have gave the opportunity for fans to fulfill their 24/7 appetite to consume their content. And I think that's the key. It's when you talk about fan engagement, you need to think also about the technology that's behind and the opportunities that the technology offers.
And actually, back to what you were just saying, is the first question of fan engagement is, what is a fan? In 2021, the question is someone who is based in Korea, in Japan, in Brazil, in Turkey, is still a fan? It's not that because he's buying a fake jersey in Vietnam, that is not a valuable fan. He has the exact same passion of someone who lives next to the stadium. And I think thanks to platforms like Facebook and Instagram and social media in general, the sports and rather the fan engagement evolved because it's become more and more global. And it brings a lot of frustration, of course, because I don't want to use that word, casual fans, the traditional fans that are here in the stadium, they can feel threatened of their relationship they have with the brand and the club, and it's true. But the reality is clubs need their global fan base to grow, because the only way for a club in the next 5 to 10 years to have an additional revenue, it's not by selling additional seats, it's not by increasing the price of the seats, it's by offering digital product, digital assets globally. And there is a question.
And I think it doesn't have to be only content, and as Alexander was saying, because think about the sense of belonging. Like for an Atletico Madrid fan in Madrid, it's very easy to feel part of the club because he can come to the stadium, he can go outside of the training ground to wait until the players comes out. But for a fan that is in, no, you don't have to go to Vietnam. Go to Malaga or Barcelona. And I'm an Atletico Madrid fan. I'm not going to be in the stadium. I'm not going to be that close. So also how you give fans internationally the sense of belonging, it's very important. It's not just about the content or the physical assets.
And I think that's very important because I remember 3 years ago, not on this stage, but on the former World Football Summit stage, we're talking the beginning of the centralization of the football industry and the sports industry, right? And at the time we mentioned there was basically for 20, 30 years the same people and the same entities taking the decisions in the sport and especially influencing the economical decisions, right? A combination of rights holders, broadcasters and commercial partners. And at the time we said, and today maybe this panel is the representation of that, it's actually very interesting to see that the new wave was basically a new holy trinity, right? Made of data and technology companies, made of athletes and fans, and about investors as well. And I think today we are in the verge of this new journey, which is going to be, I think, the amazing journey to really, once and for all, talk about sports metaverse. Right? Everybody talk about metaverse, but there is a sport metaverse, which already exists today. Because if you look, if you are a Facebook fan, if you play FIFA, regularly, if you have a fan token, if you bought, a Real Fever NFT, so you're part of that community already. I think the piece that is, still missing for the next years is really the interoperability between all the platforms, because I want my avatar or my digital self really to be known in every platform. And Facebook needs to work with socios, and Real Fever needs to work with socios, and I think it's basically an unbelievable opportunity. And finally, as well, is about the tokenization as well of the industry, right? And I think what socios is doing for me is amazing. And I think there is sometimes a lot of criticism from fans, because I don't think also at the moment people understand the dimension of can be built. I think we are on a time where fans need to feel the ownership of the clubs they love, because football is not a real industry normally, right? So it's an industry of passion. I always call it the biggest religion in the world, because the mental and emotional blindness that you have because you love that club or you love that organization, it's different from anything else you can see. But I believe that we are maybe on the verge of actually, via tokenization, creating an opportunity for fans to own equity in the club they love, right? And I think that's a massive opportunity, not just sitting them on an advisory board or trying to basically start to influencing on minor decisions. It's a process, it's a journey. And this is only the beginning, but I think the potential is absolutely massive.
So I'm going to take a slight twist on that before I take us down an ownership of a football club route. But to me, a lot of what we discussed there is the interaction, right? I think if you think of Web 1.0, it was very much push, right? I will create and you'll consume. And I think what we've seen, and it is definitely it's scary having young kids growing up, that they want to create as much as they want to consume, if not more the flip. So using things like Real Fever and socios and other developments that we're going to see, are we again at this tipping point where actually that interaction is no longer just push, that actually as sports clubs, we need to be moving and shifting our mentality to actually how do I get them to come to me and connect to me?
Yeah, I think I can give a very good example. I was talking with Antonio quite a few minutes ago about it. The most important thing when you want to understand what, in fact, we are building today is when you take a look at the kids and what are their needs. So I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she just wants to play PKXD, which is a metaverse game, you know. And if I want to give her a physical Barbie, or if I want to buy her something inside the game, she clearly prefers the game asset instead of a physical Barbie. And we should not be ashamed of that. It is what we are building with the digital transformation. So with that said, and after this need for the future, what we have to understand are the kind of business models that we build up where integrate the old school people and the new school people, you know, because there is a huge gap of knowledge, of experience, and when you interact with the technology, probably we know something that the old school people do not know. But in the other side, there is a lot of know-how and expertise that people who came from the technology does not understand the sports business. So that is probably one of the biggest challenges to innovation, is how we mutual respect and recognize value, where I see someone with 60 or 70 years old who built the whole career in the traditional sports scene, but I need that person. I need that know-how to keep innovating in my own product. You know, so we need to work together. And just to finish, one of the most important things when we speak about blockchain technology is the consensus mechanism. So for innovation to go higher and higher and higher and faster, we need to generate much more consensus altogether and respect the importance and the role of each other.
I guess, and it's the way we try to pitch it when we try to sell our product, but it's true, is at least we believe that the future of fan engagement and actually of the sports industry in general is going from a passive fan to an active fan.
Yeah,
and that transition of me being just a spectator and being part, I'm not an actor of the game, obviously, I don't wish, but I'm part of a community. When we started to work on what is socials.com, we realized that two things matter for a fan. One is being recognized as a fan, that the sports property is telling me, a random Joe, anywhere in the world, that I am someone related to the brand that I love. And because I am someone to that community, suddenly I have a voice. I have not a share of a company, but a share of influence. Sure, it's limited, but it's still more than what I had before. And that new relationship between me and the club is not just me being passive, but it's me being active. And that's why the technology, eventually, ironically, can bring to the fans and to the clubs.
And Antonio, I want to touch on this because we had a fun conversation just before here where, you know, I like to draw a line between Michael Jordan was the first player that I know of where fans watched Jordan rather than the Bulls. David Beckham was the next level in this. Cristiano and Messi have been just to the extreme. As an athlete, the ability to communicate directly to your consumer, your fan, and not just have to go via your team or whoever it may be. I mean, it's a shifting world. Atletico needs to use João Felix to help promote the brand but he and you need to connect to the fan.
Yeah, that's been pushed in the last few years already with Facebook and Instagram, and it's obviously an evolving process. But for me, and I can speak firsthand, it is not fun to win a championship and having the grandstands completely empty. So I think the basis of sports in general is it needs to be fan. Everything is for the fans. Without fans, there's no party without fans. And so everything that's been talked on this stage right now, it goes down to making the fans happy. And you know, informally, we have something called the Fan Boost, where the fans can vote on their favorite drivers throughout the week before we race on Sunday. And the 5 most voted drivers, they have a boost of power. And you know, I've won races thanks to that vote from my fans, and that helped me win races, and they feel a part of the victory. So everything that we're saying here, all of this idea is you need to give back. They need to feel part of your end result. And as I said, look, I felt firsthand, I've had probably more fun finishing races in P15 with fans there than winning races with nobody on the stands. So
you've indirectly benefited from the fan engagement.
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. But I've not given anything back.
But you can't commercialize it, monetize it, or have a direct link to them yet.
Well, to be honest, I can right now in a very simple way, where because I get a bonus from winning the championship from my team, so in a way they are helping me to make money. But I think there needs to be more than that, and even more direct. You know, this is just me, and as I told everyone here at the start, I'm still trying to understand where this is all going to go. And for me, let's say there's a Antonio token where fans can buy. And the guy who owns my token, I want to give this guy access to, he can come to a race, he can live things firsthand. You know, he doesn't only own my token to tell his friends that he owns my token, but I want him to come and experience, give him access to an experience. So combine the digital world with the real world. And I think this is a really interesting thing where they can cross together.
And I think all of that touches on something that slightly like the proof of fandom. Right, I mean, I went to Stamford Bridge for the opening home game, and I admit it, I posted on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, I'm here, you're not. I'm a bigger fan, I'm back at Stamford Bridge. but actually, I mean, that will vanish. That will disappear through the tokenization of the world, which to me is somewhat inevitable. That's everlasting. There's the role for the Facebook as it is now. There'll be a role for what Facebook emerges into as it builds its own platform. I mean, proof of fandom, how do we go on from here?
But that has existed since many years. If you think about Chelsea, for example, they have their membership team. Well, you have the people, the ticket holders, that's a sense of fandom. And then they have all these loyalty programs like Real Madrid, for example. I don't know how long the Madridistas ID has been around, the Madridistas program. That's something that in football, that idea has been explored since years. The only difference is that now the technology allows that to do it in a different way. And for example, with FC Barcelona, we launched a product that initially was designed for content creators, and it calls fan subscription. It's basically the possibility to pay a monthly subscription to get some access to exclusive content and experiences. One of the benefits that we were giving people that were subscribing to FC Barcelona is just that we were showing up a small badge with the shape of the shield of FC Barcelona on their Facebook profile. And people were there are a lot of people that only having that recognition was enough for them just to pay. So the sense of belonging, it's true, it's there, and technology is allowing us to make people feel that they belong to the club in many different ways.
And I think that's also an important point, because I think all the companies that are sitting here have been doing a tremendous job on bringing the fans much closer to the action and give them a reward for their time, for their interest, for their fanhood. But I think also it's time that all the rights holders, athletes, understand as well how much more they can give, right? Because they have the platforms, they have the systems that people can access and reward their time. But you need more experiences, you need more time, you need more commitment. In terms of giving back a lot of opportunities. I remember many years ago when I was working for Valencia, right? So we had one experience for a fan that he could sit next to the coach during the game, right? So of course you have to find as well the right coach that can as well digest that so during time, but it's possible. So everything is possible, right? And even if one day we'll have a fan boost version in football, I'm convinced that we will, but that's my opinion. But I think more and more we need to also take advantage of all these amazing companies and trying to see what can we do more for the fans and reward them more.
And actually, talking about Fan Boost, just as a fun fact, our business was based on the fact that we discovered Fan Boost in 2016 or something like that, and it triggered a brainstorming with us, like how can we engage more fans into sports? Not on the sports part. In football, it's impossible for now.
Yet,
but it was very interesting. We are launching, hopefully, this summer a project called Socios Cup, where we're going to have, so it's an exhibit, technically and legally it's an exhibition competition during the summer tour, but where fans who own fan tokens will have a say in a much more deep and interactive experience. And that's where it's going to be interesting, because of course you cannot change the FIFA rules for obvious reason, but on an exhibition and summer tour, you can actually create content that will be driven by fans. And in terms of format, in terms of goal scorings, and we have like a little bit of crazy ideas. And back to that point, we need the coach to embrace it, but we found them.
I'm going to give you just one small example how important this active fan engagement is. As you may know, we broadcast for, during the last 3 seasons, our games in the games of La Liga in India. It was a deal with La Liga, and they were using Facebook Live to broadcast all game, free to air. And we were looking at the data, and people that were watching the game, during the games we were doing polls, like, what do you think about this goal? Who is the MVP of the game? People that were participating on the polls were watching the game, like I think it was 35% or 40, close to 40% longer than fans that were not active. So it's all about making people feel part. And just a small poll during the game, it's enough to make them watch longer.
So if they feel like they actually own it, even if it's a different form of ownership,
yep,
the logic should hopefully say, we will want them to watch for longer. Obviously, one of the challenges right now, I go back to early adopter. We have a group where, yes, fans, when they come on, I think season ticket holders on your platform will all be given a token.
For free.
Obviously, then there are others who are going, well, this is a currency basis that we can come in and they will acquire, and I know you've got caps and limits and so on, but how do we get to a point where the liquidity in the fan base tips to the point where we're seeing a much more steady basis of perpetual growth for you, for the business, for the rights holders?
So I like to compare that a little bit with the video game industry. 30 years ago, when we started, and I put myself into it as a geek, as someone who obviously doesn't have a social life because I do video games, and everybody was going to say that we will end up very badly. Here we go 30 years later, everybody has a video game console in his living room. My point here is, in any launch of innovation and product, you have a cycle where you have first the early adopters who are going to consume that product in a different way than the mainstream audience. And here in what we do in socials, for example, yes, we do have the first people who engage with us are actually the people who understand what we do. And most of you don't. So you are not our customers, which is very interesting, because eventually you will. And it is a matter of education, education, education. And you can spend an unlimited amount of money, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of time. You cannot earn legitimacy. We need to build it. So in what we do, we need 5 to 10 years to actually really balance the early adopters, the people who get it immediately, with the more mainstream users that eventually is going to make 10 million, 100 million users on the ecosystem. But it is a matter of time. As much as we would like to have more casual fans involved, they're not yet there because they don't get what we do, and this comes with time.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the best possible examples in terms of early adoption is the plastic card that I have in my pocket, because 40 years ago, if I would say that everybody will pay something with a plastic card, my grandfather would say, you're crazy. Today, even the plastic card is already obsolete because we make payments with mobile apps. But probably, in 30 years, we will do it just with a microchip implanted in our body, and we make payments using NFC technology or something like that. So the data that we have today says that only 3% of the whole population in the planet has at least one piece of a crypto asset. So everything that we are building, we are under that umbrella of just 3% of the global population. So if you take a look for the next 10 years, this will be multiplied for 5%, 6%, 10%, until it becomes 100% mainstream. So there is a long way to move forward, but still, today the interest and demand is dramatically huge.
So how do we get the audience today, the IP rights holders? We've talked about fan engagement, ownership, interconnection, that only 3% could even be in the market because they're the only ones who actually are buying into the currency or understanding that it exists even. How do we get this audience and the audience at home watching to say, I need to do this now? And is it, Anthony, we were talking about, is it FOMO? What is it that we use to build this market in sports?
I mean, again, I think, fortunately or not, it's a matter of time, because you cannot force someone to adopt a product that they don't understand. And it's true for the clubs. You know, I'm going to be a significant self-critic. We have clubs we are working with, and half of the management board doesn't have a Socios account. That's bad, but that's the reality. So we need, step by step, to educate the clubs, the media, the fans. We need to show use case. We need to have a better product. Our product is 5% of what it should be and what it will be. We need time. We need to show that there is value for the fans, for the clubs, for the sponsors as well, and try to create this ecosystem working.
But 10 years ago, that same board probably didn't have Facebook accounts.
True.
I think it's going to be a matter of time and education, obviously, but combined with a generation change. My father will never buy an NFT. He won't understand, and if I tell him that I bought an NFT for $200,000, he will tell me I'm an idiot. But I am 100% sure that the kids playing all these games, they will. I really believe that kids will probably be able to play a game simultaneously as the real game is, or the real race is happening, be involved in the race. And I really think it's going to happen naturally. You know, the kids that are growing up now, the millennials, this will be natural for them. So it's time, and obviously you guys have to do your part with educating, because I also don't understand it. Maybe I'm too old already, but I'm sure the new guys, it's only going to be natural to them, you know. And I think combining, but I think it's really important to never lose the humanity side of things and stop coming to the match itself and only, you know, do it through apps or whatever. I think it's really important to try and keep both combined, and we are social animals, you know. Through COVID, we felt, you know, all the mental health, everything being locked up at home. It's a horrible thing. So I think fan engagement in person and obviously in a digital way, it's something that must be combined and must be done together.
And that's the difficulty, actually. It's how you combine different tribes, because there are different tribes of fans all over the world, or even in the stadium. How do you balance them, and how do you not threaten them with innovation and they feel left out? And that's the difficulty in our business. We need to find the right balance between the, as I said, traditional fans, in a weird way to say that, and the more casual and probably digital fans, which is the next generation as well. And that's the difficulty.
If Luis, I'm going to slightly flip it here. So this morning I woke up and read that the English government is looking to ban gambling on the front of shirts. And I think 9 of the Premier League teams have a gambling brand on the front of the shirt. If I have a fear, it's that they'll sit there and say, okay, so Ferrari have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. I now have my next sponsorship man. But actually, I'm not that interested in the product. I just want my $20 million for the front of the shirt for the next big team.
Yeah, you know, you have a big danger. I think the interesting thing, and betting was an interesting example, right? Because I think still today, most part of the rights holders still don't understand what it can do with betting, right? And I think there is also an educational piece that has to come, you know, out of that, because in a way, betting, you know, made a lot, you know, for sports, right? Because there was a time where actually those funds were very important to support, you know, the operation of many organizations around the world. Of course, like everything in life, you know, innovation, and especially when betting has become highly scalable and still on the verge, right? Because it's still also in the beginning of the journey, right? Because as soon as we can have real-time data, flooding into betting, you know, their business is going to the roof. And so there's still a lot of journey or steps of the journey ahead. And I think as well, governments and legislators need to be prepared to handle that, right? We discussed many years ago, maybe how could we create a global, governance body for betting? That is possible, and everybody can work together, and everybody can have a saying, and everybody can find a better place. Now, when we're talking about this specific part of the journey, the unknown, it's even bigger, right? And of course, especially after COVID, many sports organizations have, a bigger need to generate cash and to find, basically a further balance. It's not because only of COVID. The problems were coming already before, but COVID reinforced a lot, many of the issues. And there will be a temptation to just, take the money and move. And I think that's important, and that's also why the educational piece is so important, right? For everyone to understand what they can do with it, because this is a partnership, right? And it's a partnership between two organizations. And they can generate a far better result for the fans, they can generate a far better result for the players, they can generate a far better place, for the ecosystem, but they need to build a business together, because one without the other will not work. And I think it's important that, and these are all organizations that now are, with a massive number of negotiations and contacts with everyone, that actually rights holders can understand, the roadmap and can understand really the massive opportunity ahead, and also, the roadmap they need to build to go step by step and not trying to give a step bigger than the leg, right?
But I have how different is betting from exchange tokens? And because let's not be around the bush here, like in the end of the day, people bet to win money. Tokens, yes, we're bringing fans closer and everything, but in the end, there will be the aspect of, I bought this for 10 and I'm going to sell it for 15 or whatever. So there will be the money side of things as well. But I don't think it's that. Obviously, betting has a bigger impact. The result of the match has a straight up bigger impact on what you do. But it's if I buy a Messi token and he's not playing so well at the moment, maybe I will lose money with it. So it's not really that different. Maybe I got to ask you guys because I'm not.
I'm jumping in. Actually, I come from the online betting industry. I've done that for 15 years, so I see really the differences. Sports betting, in general, you bet money indeed to win money, and if you lose, you lose. Done. Yeah. In the token industry, NFTs, fan tokens, anything that is tradable, the value may fluctuate, but you still have what you bought. So if there is utility of what you acquired, which is in our case is the voice and the benefit that you get as a fan token holders, it doesn't matter if you pay $12 or $18. If you believe that what you have is valuable for you. And that's the big difference, is here you're buying something that has a utility on which some people, yes, will trade. But actually, everything in life is about tradability. Everything in life is about scarcity. Football clubs buy players and trade them. People buy tickets and sell them. It's exactly the same. Here, the difference is at the end of the event, you can still, there is no end of the event. As long as you own a token, you have access to a utility. And that's a little bit the difference in our case, or NFTs, where, at least for the people who bought them, they have a value due to the collectability of it.
Actually, I have another interesting question for you, which is, we're seeing a lot of changes on image rights and TV rights and all of that, and how hard has been for you to penetrate, old school football club owners into this new, because I guess in the beginning they wouldn't understand, they will lose slight control of it, because I don't know if this is where you want to go, but if you own tokens, maybe you can decide which equipment they will play tomorrow, if it's the red or the pink one, or so they will lose a little bit of control. Has it been hard to penetrate these walls with them? Or
Alex, you've got to do this in about 30 seconds.
Oh, yes.
You're on the clock.
So the unpolitical answer is the beauty of sports is everything is about money. It's good and it's bad. So when you are lucky enough to be funded at the beginning of your journey, you can engage with clubs. Doesn't mean you're going to make deals, but you can at least engage with clubs. So we were very lucky because we had money when we started. Now, the control part, it's actually wrong. It's not true. The club decide what they want to ask to their fans. Sure. So they decide, hey, we're going to make a deal with Nike or Adidas, and you as a fan, you're going to decide if you want jersey A, B, C, or D. Well, it's actually the most common question that should happen. The fans are the one buying the jersey. Why we don't ask them which one they prefer? And that's where we go.
So from my perspective, you guys should grab them afterwards, pick their brains. NFTs, blockchain, it's inevitable. You want to be connecting with your fans on a deeper level. Thank you, guys. It's been an honor hosting you.
Thank you.
Thank you.